Hi, I'm OneMind Dogs coach Niki Drage, and today we're going to be talking about the role of leading legs in dog agility. This is one of my absolute favorite topics. I love leading legs because it really changed my agility journey and my understanding of the dog's perspective of agility and how dogs move through agility and how to choose handling techniques on the course. So it's a really powerful topic, and there is a lot to learn about it, and we are constantly learning more. But we already have some great information about leading legs that I'm going to share with you today. But before we start that, I just wanted to do a little overview of the OneMind Dogs method in case you are new to OneMind Dogs, and because everything that we talk about is based on the origins of OneMind Dogs. So this image that you see here is Tekla. This is a border collie that is the dog of our founding method creator, Janita Leinonen. And when Janita was competing with Tekla at a high championship level, she suddenly went deaf. And this was quite a problem because Janita had based all her handling mostly on verbals at this point, and she completely had to change what she was doing. So what she actually did was experiment with the dog in training. If I move this way, if I look here, if I step here, what does my dog do? And then she sort of started to formulate some theories based on that about what handling elements are important to our dog. And then she started working with friends and students and their dogs just to see if this was an overall thing that most dogs would do. And based off of that, she recognized 7 key handling elements that our dogs respond to naturally, just on instinct without training. And those 7 handling elements have now form the OneMind Dogs handling techniques. So all of our techniques are based on the dog's natural reactions to our body language, as opposed to a taught thing. We have now also added some extra taught cues to help people with less mobility and things like that, for example, but our core base elements are all about these natural responses to handling and to body language. And since then, OneMind Dogs has developed into a much bigger thing that's all about understanding agility from our dog's point of view and seeing how the dogs see the course and how they move through the course and helping them to see the course more clearly. So everything we do comes from that dog's perspective. That's our main focus in training. And then our goal is to help you to understand your dog's perspective and through that to create a connection with your dog that feels almost magic. So ideally what we want is that you feel like you are one mind with your dog. So when you're running together, you see the course the same way and you're working together and you have flow and understanding and communication. That's our ultimate goal here at OneMind Dogs. So talking a little bit about leading legs. So the leading leg is basically the leg that's in front when the dog is cantering. So when the dog has a canter stride, the leg that comes down second in the front and is reaching further forward, that's their leading leg. So you can see it here. This is Janita with her other border collie Fu, and her right leading leg is in front here as she is turning right into the tunnel. So as I mentioned, it's the leg that's in front when the dog is running, and the dog can only turn towards the leading leg. So if they are on their right leading leg, they can only turn to the right. If they're on their left leading leg, they can only turn to the left. And if they need to change directions, they need to change that leading leg. And experienced dogs do this all by themselves. So dogs that you feel are good at reading the course, for example, or you can see they look like they know where the course is going, these more experienced dogs are picking where they need to do their lead changes because they can predict the course. Whereas novice dogs or dogs with very large, fast strides need a bit more help from the handler to change their lead. And that's why they can feel a bit more difficult to run initially if you don't understand how to handle leading legs and how to help the dog with leading legs. So I'm going to give you more information about that today to give you more ability to help these dogs to be on the correct leading leg. So how does a dog choose their leading leg? Well, there's many different reasons, but the biggest, most important one is the side that the handler is on. So dogs are always preparing to turn towards the handler just because that's what they naturally do. This is one of those things that we learnt from dogs by experimenting. And if you're on your dog's right-hand side, they will naturally choose their right leading leg in preparation to turn towards you, basically. The next one would be the direction of the turn. So if you have one of these experienced dogs that knows how to read a line of obstacles and they can see where the course is going, they would choose the leading leg that helps them to pick that line, for example. And then the obstacle, so a tunnel, if a tunnel turns to the left, then the dog will have to be on the left lead when they go into the tunnel. Also weaves, a really common one. So this is why some dogs struggle more with weaves when the handler is on the right-hand side of the weaves, because now the dog wants to turn right to the handler, but they have to turn left to enter the weaves. So this is why that's often a harder entry for the dog than if the handler's on the other side, where they can go around the first pole and stay on that inside leading leg. So the obstacle also can determine which leading leg the dog needs to be on to complete it. And then lastly, the more comfortable side. So if you ran your dog in a straight line, for example, if you placed a ball or a bowl of food and you stood directly in front of it and sent your dog there, and then watched which way they turn when they come away from that, often if they turn one way more than the other way, then that is their more comfortable side to turn to. And that's the leading leg they would choose, for example, on a straight line where you're behind and you're not influencing the leading leg. And some dogs, if you even watch when there's big gaps between obstacles, they will do a couple of lead changes to be on their more comfortable side for a while before changing back for the next obstacle. So that's always very interesting to see. Now, lead leg conflicts. This is one of my favorite topics because it helps so many people solve so many problems with dogs that run around obstacles, have refusals, or knock bars. So basically, a lead leg conflict is when the handler is on one side of the dog. So that makes the dog want to choose that lead leg. But the obstacle that they must take is on the other side of the dog. So then they actually need to be on that lead leg to complete that obstacle. So in this diagram I have here, you can see the dog is sitting at number 1. The handler is on the dog's right. So the dog wants to choose the right leading leg naturally. But number 2 is on the dog's left. So the dog needs to be on his left lead leg to take number 2. So in this case, an experienced dog who has high obstacle focus would land from number 1 and pick number 2 as the next obstacle, because there's no other really obvious obstacle, and would do the lead change themselves to take number 2. If number 3 was, for example, a straight tunnel that was a bit closer, maybe even an experienced dog would just go 1, 3, because 2 is not really even in their thought because it's on the other leading leg. However, we can make this sort of a situation much easier for the dog by handling a lead change for the dog towards number 2. And we do this with our chest and our outside hand, but I will show you that in 1 minute. So this sort of situation is very common on jumps, especially these days when there's a lot more of these sort of slicing approaches to jumps. Also common on tunnels, where the dog has to turn away to take a tunnel away from the handler, and on weaves, as I discussed before. And this is also where we get the most common refusals, because the dog, if the dog doesn't have time to change that leading leg while they're performing 1, then they might not be able to get onto the correct leg to do number 2. So then they'll run past the tunnel or run past the weaves, or run past number 2. So you see this a lot in a serpentine, where the dog comes over the first jump and then they come in over the second jump and they can't change lead legs on time to get back to the third jump. So then they might just run past it altogether, or just run towards the handler. So if you have an issue where your dog commonly refuses number 2 in this sort of a situation, it's probably because they don't understand about the lead leg change. And we need to tell them about the lead leg change on time in order for them to be able to see to and commit to it as well. So the more handler focused and the more inexperienced your dog is, the harder this situation is for them. And so then the more help they need to change leads to take number 2. So I'll just show you this video. I'm just going to pause it and restart it in a minute because it starts a bit, jumps ahead. But this is a video from our Beyond Foundations online course. So this is basically the next step we recommend after you've done your foundation training and learned the handling techniques. And it's now starting to test them and put them into sequences. And this is Tulia, one of the OneMind Dog's founding coaches, and her young dog, Etsu. And so because this dog is young and inexperienced, it needs help maintaining the correct lead leg to take this jump. So I'm just going to restart it here. Okay, so you can see here that the dog is coming over this jump, and then it's going to want to naturally switch to the right lead leg to head towards Tulia. But Tulia wants the dog to stay on the left lead leg to take the correct side of number 2. So she's going to use her outside hand. So in this situation, that's her right hand. And she's going to turn her chest towards the dog. And what that does is puts pressure on the dog's line and cues for them to stay on their outside leading leg and turn away from the handler. So let's have a look. So here you can see that she is turning her chest using her outside hand, and the dog is turning away from her on its left lead leg to take the jump towards the left. So if she had not used that outside hand, the dog probably would have just bypassed the jump and run towards her. And then she's rewarding the dog to say that that was the correct thing and that's what she wanted it to do. So there's lots of different situations where you need to help the dog like this as well. And very often people will think their dog is being like stubborn or naughty because they're missing the jump, but it's actually just because the dog physically can't stay on the correct lead leg to take the jump. So when you understand lead legs, you also understand a lot more about how your dog moves through the course. If the handler cues the lead change too late, so that the dog doesn't have time to change lead legs before takeoff, or they don't cue it at all, then very often we get the dogs taking a refusal. So I've got a video about that too. Now, this is a bit of an older video, so it's a little bit fuzzy. Sorry about that, but it's quite clearly marks the lead legs. So I will show you in a minute. Should I just restart it here? So you can see here that Janita doesn't handle the dog at all, and the dog just runs with her because it's on the wrong lead leg to take the weaves. So here what happens is that the dog, I'm just going to pause it, sorry. The dog starts coming out of the tunnel on the left lead leg because it saw Janita run past the tunnel exit. So it read that as the line was going that way. So it got its lead leg ready to turn that way. But then because Janita was not connected and didn't handle the dog to stay on that outside lead leg, it switched lead legs to follow Janita instead. So we can watch this happen. So here she actually marks the lead leg, so towards the weaves, and then she's on the correct lead leg, so the left leading leg, heading to the weaves, but then switches to the right lead leg because the handler has lost the connection and she's not helping or handling the dog. And when you break that connection, the dog just focuses on you. They forget to look for obstacles at all. So now she's connected and she's using her outside hand and her chest to handle the dog to stay on the correct leading leg. And you will see again in slow motion in a second. Here, that now, sorry, in slow motion, that now the dog maintains that outside leading leg because she's staying connected and handling that. And so then the dog can easily enter the weaves. So I will also have some follow-up emails to this webinar with extra information, and then you'll be able to see this video again too, so you can replay it in your own time to really see those lead legs. So you can see how these conflicts occur and how easy it is to help the dog solve the conflict by just helping them a little bit with that outside hand. So a lack of knowledge of leading legs often leads to faults and also really to frustration, both from the dog and the handler, because the dog is frustrated because they're getting conflicting information and they're confused about which lead leg they should choose and what they should be doing. And the handler gets frustrated because they think that the dog is being naughty or not listening or not doing obstacles that they know how to do. So that's why lead legs are such an important topic to understand, because it makes such a difference in how you feel about your connection with your dog and how much they're listening to you, and about your understanding of how your dog sees the course. So if you have a look at this image, the first one on the left, the tunnel curves to the left and the handler is on the left. So both of these aspects support the left lead leg for the dog. So this is easy for the dog. The second image, the handler is on the right, so that would make the dog choose their right lead leg, but the tunnel curves to the left, so then the dog needs to choose their left lead leg. So this situation is difficult for the dog because there's a conflict again. So a novice dog in this situation would often enter the tunnel, turn around and come back out because it doesn't know how to switch to the left lead leg and take the tunnel while the handler is on the right. So this is something that we need to help the dog with. Again, you can use your outside hand and your chest in this situation. And also by building higher obstacle focus, the dog will more easily choose themselves to switch to the left lead in this situation because the tunnel curves to the left. So that's why it's so important to teach your dog obstacle focus. So what you can do to address this issue is to recognize conflicts on the course. So when you walk courses, or even better, looking at course maps, and you see where there is a conflict. So think about your dog's line, which way the dog has to turn, and then which side of that line you are on. If you are on the leading leg side, that helps support the correct lead leg for the dog. It's much easier for the dog. So if you can handle in a way that you can be on that lead leg side, you'll make course reading so much easier for your dog. If you have to be on the other side for some reason because you couldn't get there or because of where the course is going next, then you have to recognize that that's going to be a conflict and you need to help your dog there with some handling, such as the chest turn and the offhand, like I mentioned. And plan that during your course walk. So you'll see, okay, here's a conflict, so I'm going to do this to help my dog, and think about where you need to give that information. So it's really important to give information about lead changes between the obstacles, not over the actual bar of the jump, because if you give it during takeoff or over the bar, the dog will try to switch lead legs in midair and the bar will come down, because when they switch lead legs in midair, their hind legs switch and drop, and that's when the bar gets taken out. Or quite often the dog will land and do a spin and then come the way that you wanted it to because it just couldn't switch lead legs on time. So you need to give them the information to let them still have a full stride to change lead legs in before they take the obstacle. And you can do this using handling techniques. So handling techniques naturally cue a lead leg change because you're changing your handling side. So front cross, rear cross, blind cross, all of those, you are changing which side of the dog you are on. So then that changes the dog's lead leg, and that's what helps them to turn. So all of those handling techniques have to be started, or that information has to be given at least a stride before the dog takes off for the obstacle, so that they have that time to respond and do the lead change and take the obstacle on the correct leading leg. That's why it's so important to do these handling techniques early. And as I mentioned, so you need to cue that lead change between the obstacles, not over the bar. So that's something that I plan during my course walk. So I think, okay, when the dog lands from that jump, I have three strides in which I can cue my lead change. So I will give it when the dog is here, for example. So really try to handle courses and think about courses based on where your dog is, not on where you are. So very often people will walk a course and go, okay, I'm going to run to this jump and do a front cross, but that's not how it works. So what you should think about is, when my dog is here, I will do a front cross regardless of where I am. Even if I'm still 3 meters from the jump, I can do a front cross because my dog just needs the information at that point, not when I'm in a specific spot. And then that will help you be much better at cueing your dog's lead changes at the correct time. And it's really important to know your dog and what they need. So if your dog is inexperienced and fast with massive strides, then they will need more help than a small striding dog that knows how to already pick lines. So know your dog. But also I find it really important to help whenever I can. So sometimes there's a situation where you can't help make things super easy for the dog because you want to be getting to the next section of the course, for example, or because you're too far behind. But if you're there and you're not in a hurry to get to the next section, then I always help my dog with a lead change if I can, because it just gives your dog that extra boost of confidence that where they think they're going is correct, and gives them really early information to help them know exactly where to go and to be confident that that's the correct way. And that's when you get a faster dog who's much more committed to obstacles because they already have all the information, so they can make all the correct decisions and not have to worry, is this correct? Am I doing it wrong? So help them whenever you can. And train a high level of obstacle focus. When your dog has strong obstacle focus, it's easier for them to predict where the course goes because they're looking ahead at the obstacles and planning already. And then it's easier for them to choose the correct lead legs. So that's one of the skills that we train highly during our foundation program, so that the dogs have that ability to pick lines very early on in the piece. Now, if you're interested in this topic and you want to learn more about leading legs, there's a few different options. So our Foundation for Agility program has a lot of lessons in it where we are just focused on leading legs, both on helping the dog get used to changing their leading legs throughout handling and throughout course running, and also to help you learn about timing and how to cue leading legs. So I do have one more video for you from our foundation program. It's just a little extract video that has a part of the lesson in it, but it shows you a great exercise for learning about lead changes. So you can see the dog zigzagging through the wings. So basically what the aim is in here, you can do this with anything. You can do it with household objects. You can do it with trees, lampposts, anything where there's a few things in a row. You want to leave your dog on one end, and then you want to go to the other end. If you don't have an assistant, you can leave your dog in a sit and stay, or you can put like a bowl of food on the ground and have your dog eating that while you run to your position. Lots of options if you're training by yourself. But it's easier if you have a helper as well, if you don't have a sit and stay. And then you want to start with just 3 objects and position yourself behind the third one. And you're going to use your chest and your outside hand to tell your dog which way to turn. So now you can see the chest laser is turning to that side so that the dog chooses the lead leg that helps them turn to that side. And then as soon as the dog is released and starts running, then you want to already be cueing the lead change to give your dog time to do the lead change and come through the second gap. So you'll see that happen here. So as soon as the dog starts, you can see Anita is starting to turn, and she's going to turn her chest to point towards the other side of the objects to help the dog do the lead change and come through the gap. So you can obviously do this with wings, and then eventually you could even do it with jumps, like a serpentine sort of situation. So that's one of the very many lead change exercises that we do in our foundation training, and it's really fun to also film these and then to watch it back and see your dog do the lead changes. And you'll learn yourself as well how much time your individual dog needs for lead changes. So if you turn your chest too late, they're not going to make the gap because they don't have time to change leads and get through it. If you do it too early, then they'll come to the wrong side of the object. So it gives you great feedback about timing of lead changes for your dog. Another way you can learn more about leading legs is to learn new handling techniques. So as I mentioned before, pretty much every handling technique will cue a lead change for your dog. And when you learn the handling techniques, you will learn how your body language influences those lead changes for your dog. So you'll learn if I'm positioned here, if I move this way, if I look that way, how does that affect how my dog turns, and how does that affect what time they do their lead change. So all of our handling technique videos in our online program are broken down to help you recognize those parts of your body language and see how they affect how your dog moves through the course. So the more of these tools that you have in your toolbox, the more you will understand about your dog's lines and about when they have to perform lead changes and how you can help them do that. Another great way is to analyze course maps. So I go online very often and will print off course maps or just look at them on my phone and share them with my students and say, okay, well, where in here is a lead leg conflict? And at this part of the course, which leading leg is your dog on? And just asking yourself those questions will help you learn a lot about how your dog sees the course and where they will need help on the course. And the most important one is to watch your own videos in slow motion, especially if something is going wrong. So if you're training something or you had a competition and something went wrong that you didn't understand, and you have a video of it, ideally, then slow down the video. So you can either put it in YouTube and just play it back at like quarter speed, or you can use a video editing program and watch it in slow motion and look at your dog's legs, which leg is in front, and did the issue occur because they couldn't switch to the right leg to turn that way. If this is something that you think is beyond your current abilities and you need help with it, then definitely I highly recommend that you join our Agility Premium program, because then you can send videos to us. So me, Lynn, and we've also got Caitlin and Stephanie and Beth. We're all coaches and instructors. We all teach seminars regularly with students, and we see this stuff all the time. So you can send us your videos from training or from competitions and say, you know, why is my dog turning this way? Or why didn't they take this jump? And more often than not, we will say, well, they were on this leading leg and they didn't get the information on time to change lead legs. And after we give you that feedback and show you that several times, you will then be able to do that yourself to your own videos. And that's such a great skill to have. So I highly recommend that you that you video all your training and as many competitions as possible to help you be able to watch these videos in slow motion and analyze this. So just a little bit more about our Agility Premium program that I was talking about. So you get personal coach support from us. And the other thing that you do get as well is if you send in a competition video and say, hey, what happened here? And I say, well, you needed to do this handling technique to cue a lead change for your dog, we would then also give you the homework to do that. So go to these lessons, do these exercises, and then you will know how to do that. So for me personally, I was a student of OneMind Dogs before I started working for OneMind Dogs about 9 years ago. And I learned everything online, and that was the biggest game changer for me, the ability to send in a video and ask what was going wrong and immediately get the answer instead of repeating the wrong thing over and over and over and teaching my dog the wrong things as well. So it just gives you that instant, yes, this is what's happening and this is how you fix it. So you feel like you're not training by yourself. At the moment, we also have our summer sale on until the 15th of July. So this is the best time to join if you're not premium already, because it will give you a great deal as well. So if you just go to our www.oneminddogs.com website, then you will see the summer sale there and you can grab an offer. So thank you very much for joining this webinar. I just wanted to leave you with one of my favorite quotes, that mistakes are the best way to learn. Please don't be afraid of mistakes, because learning is infinite. So every time a mistake happens, think of it as a learning opportunity with your dog and to learn more about your dog and how they see agility. All right, thanks everybody.